Nestled in the heart of Western Europe, Luxembourg is renowned for its incredible restaurants and world-class museums. While it's definitely worth a visit, is it worth living here? Keep watching to see for yourself. I'm Kalie with Expats Everywhere, and this is Luxembourg.
We visited Luxembourg 3 years ago during the winter, and now we're back in the spring to give you updated information about living in Luxembourg. Let's tackle topics like language, cost, weather, transportation, and more.
One of the other things that makes Luxembourg so unique is that it is currently the only territory of a duke that still exists today. It was founded in 963 and has a great history of kings, castles, and wars.
Fast forward to 1944 when the country became part of the Benelux Economic Union. This connected its economy with the Netherlands and Belgium and later became the foundation of the European Economic Community, which eventually became the European Union.
Luxembourg City, home to European institutions since 1952, is one of the 3 institutional seats of the European Union. It also hosts a large number of European institutions, agencies, and bodies. While we were visiting, we saw a lot of buildings that had some sort of connection to the European Union.
Absolutely. Luxembourg has a government with a parliament and a hereditary monarchy. According to the 1868 Constitution, which has been updated, the Grand Duke and the Council of Government, which is a group of leaders including the Prime Minister and other ministers, have executive power.
They are part of the European Union and use the euro. Despite being one of the smallest countries on the continent, Luxembourg consistently ranks among the wealthiest nations in the world. It is surrounded by France, Germany, and Belgium, making it relatively easy to commute to other countries in Europe.
Speaking of transportation, one thing that Luxembourg is famous for is its free public transportation.
This includes trains, buses, trams, and even the funicular railway. You only need to buy a ticket if you want to travel first class or board a cross-border train. The city offers a really interesting contrast between modern and historic architecture. In one way, it's able to preserve its past while still progressing to accommodate the modern world that we live in today.
Another interesting aspect of Luxembourg City is the higher and lower parts. The lower part is referred to as the Grund district and is located in the valley below the center of the city. There are plenty of different ways to go from the higher part to the lower part, including elevators.
While you're visiting Luxembourg, you'll probably hear all sorts of languages due to the fact that the country, and especially Luxembourg City itself, is such a multicultural place because of its location in Central Europe.
The official languages are Luxembourgish, French, and German, although a lot of English is spoken here as well due to tourism, schooling, and the amount of expats living here.
Also, something that is interesting is a good percentage of those expats are Portuguese. Luxembourg has one of the biggest Portuguese communities outside of Portugal itself. So Portuguese is widely spoken here too. Lots of options for languages.
While we were visiting, we actually filmed a video about languages and speaking Portuguese to see how many people would understand. That video will be on our main channel, Expats Everywhere, so head over there for more content.
The focus of our video today will be on Luxembourg City itself.
More specifically, what it is like to live here. One interesting fact about this city is that it has been considered a UNESCO World Heritage Site since 1994.
Last time we visited Luxembourg City, it was unusually cold, even though Luxembourg tends to have cold winters. But typically, it has mild summers getting as warm as 73 Fahrenheit and as cool as 55 Fahrenheit. During the months of September through December, it ranges from 55 to 30. From March through May, the temperatures average from around 57 to 55.
As small as the country is, living more north or south can still affect climate. The country gets about 40 inches of rain per year, but this amount changes in different areas. The southwest receives about 35 inches, while the southeast gets around 30 inches.
Being one of the wealthiest countries in Europe, the salaries are pretty high. The average monthly gross salary is around 5,000 euros a month, while the average gross minimum wage per month is around 2,500 euros.
Luxembourg's wealth is also reflected in the cost of living. Let's take a look at some of the costs here. Luxembourg has some of the highest housing costs in Europe. In the city center, renting a one-bedroom apartment usually costs between 1,800 and 2,500 euros per month, while similar options in surrounding areas range from 1,400 to 1,800 euros per per month.
Monthly utility bills for an apartment covering things like electricity, heating, water, and garbage collection typically range from 150 to 250 euros. High-speed internet service costs around 40 to 60 per month, while mobile phone plans with data usually fall between 20 and 40. Overall, utility costs are moderate compared to the country's general cost of living.
There is a state health insurance system that all residents must join. That covers 80 to 90% of medical costs. Some people choose private health insurance for extra coverage, which costs around 100 to 200 euros per month per person. This is just an average though. A regular doctor's visit costs between 50 and 70 euros before reimbursement, while seeing a specialist ranges from 70 to 120 euros.
Both public and private hospitals are available, all of which provide emergency services. Public hospitals are known for their high quality care though. Because English is so widely spoken here, it should be very easy to make yourself understood as a foreigner arriving in Luxembourg.
In Luxembourg City, the two main hospital groups are the Foundation Robert Schumann and the Centre Hospitalier de Luxembourg. When choosing a hospital, factors such as your location, required treatment, and health insurance coverage may influence your decision.
Due to the multicultural nature of this city, you can find all sorts of different cuisines at restaurants. A meal at a casual restaurant costs between 16 to 25 euro, while dining at a nicer restaurant can be around 40 to 80 per person.
Yeah, and if you're looking for a more traditional Luxembourg dish, it may be a bit more difficult to find and even more expensive. Traditional Luxembourgish food is rich and full of flavor, influenced by different European cuisines. It often includes local ingredients like potatoes, meat, or dairy products.
Here are a few places to try traditional Luxembourgish food. Prices vary depending on the dish you choose.
Monthly grocery expenses at local supermarkets usually range from 400 to 600 euros per person, but that also highly depends on each person's lifestyle. So many residents shop in neighboring countries to find lower prices.
One area you don't have to budget for is public transportation because, like Josh said earlier, in all of Luxembourg, public transportation is completely free. It's clean and efficient, so while you could pay for a car here, you'll cut costs if you just use public transportation.
Making smart decisions like choosing more affordable housing areas and shopping across the border can help you balance costs while still benefiting from everything the country has to offer. Some even choose to live across the border, but then that means that you'll have a different visa, so keep that in mind.
Speaking of visas, the requirements for entering and staying in Luxembourg depend not only on the duration of the intended stay, but also on the applicant's country of origin. Some countries are required to have a visa, even if it's just for a short visit, while other countries, including those within the EU, do not need a visa. Make sure to check official websites to see if the country you're from needs one or not.
Luxembourg offers different types of visas, including a short stay C visa and a long stay D visa. A short stay visa permits a stay in Luxembourg for up to 90 days within a 180-day period. It also allows travel to other Schengen countries during its validity. The Luxembourg short stay visa is granted for purposes such as tourism, business meetings, medical checkups, family or personal visits, school trips, conferences, and more.
Now, a long stay D visa permits you to stay in Luxembourg for up to 1 year and also allows travel to other Schengen countries. This visa can be obtained for purposes such as employment, education, investment, and family reunification. With a long stay visa, you can apply for a temporary residence permit in Luxembourg, which grants a stay of up to 5 years and can be renewed.
Job seekers looking for English-speaking opportunities in Luxembourg should focus on the banking and IT sectors, where English is highly valued. In contrast, public sector roles such as healthcare and teaching positions typically require proficiency in Luxembourg's official languages.
As for taxes, according to the taxfoundation.org website, Luxembourg ranks 6th overall on the 2024 International Tax Competitiveness Index. Luxembourg follows a progressive income tax system, which rates determined by income level and applicable deductions.
Tax percentages will vary, so we recommend that you speak with an accountant or financial advisor before you move.
Despite how expensive Luxembourg is, it actually has low unemployment and a very stable economy. So, would Josh, Sia, and I live here?
Alright, so let's talk about this because Luxembourg is a place that has fascinated me since the very first time that we set eyes on it.
Yes, definitely. So then we visited for the first time. Like we said, it was cold, colder than normal because it was winter time. But wow,
Which could be the deal breaker.
Yeah, that is true. We'll get there. But what a beautiful city. I think one thing that really stuck out to me is the architecture. It has such a nice mix of like the older style, but not like old, like falling apart, but just the older style, and then newer. And they just mix very well.
Yeah, that was the first thing that I was going to come on to, was about this kind of difference, variety in architecture. I actually really like some of the modern stuff that's going on, especially in the stretch kind of leading out of the historic city center going towards the airport. That area's got like really interesting looking glass and steel buildings. It feels very much like Europe when you're in the old city, so that's nice to have both as options.
Right, and we've talked a little bit, bounced around from like Luxembourg, the city and the country. I mean, it's so small, but there's a lot to explore outside of the city and quite easy to get to because of the free public transportation, which is a really cool perk that you have.
Yeah. Now, one thing I'd like to talk about is the food, because from a cost perspective, I think that if you're coming from a country that has higher food costs for dining out, you're not going to have as much sticker shock as someone that is coming from a place that is, let's say, cheaper.
Yeah, right.
So in Portugal, the prices for dishes would be, I don't know, anywhere between 10 to 50% less for like similar quality of restaurants and meals. So the fact that we're going there and spending basically sometimes not double, but 50% more on the same exact food that we could get in Portugal, it was a bit shocking.
Right, because we currently live in Portugal, so that's what makes it an easy comparison. And then the other thing that was cool, which we can go back to the food in a second, but talking about languages, there are so many Portuguese that actually live in Luxembourg. It's a high percentage of the foreigners that live there are actually Portuguese. So when walking around, you'd forget that you were in Luxembourg because you're so used to hearing Portuguese, obviously living in Portugal, and you hear it around you as well. So that was something too.
And many of the Portuguese people that we spoke with, they moved for job opportunities. They wanted to earn a higher wage and then just be at maybe a job that was a bit like more interesting or more challenging than what they could find in their home country, which I think is pretty common in what kind of builds what is the foreign base of who lives in Luxembourg.
Right.
People that are seeking higher positions in companies, because I think there are a decent amount of corporations that are there. There's also government positions, but people are on pretty big salaries.
Salaries, that's a big thing, is, we talk about the minimum wage and the average salary is just so high. So then you just have spending power elsewhere, right? So if you take that salary and then you come visit maybe friends or family in Portugal or one of the other EU countries, like you can just do a lot more with it. So it makes sense, but it does mean that the cost of living can be kind of high there as well to kind of match it.
Yeah, absolutely. And before Kalie and I started running a media content creation business, we were school teachers, and we started to level up in kind of the international school teaching game, and realized that there are schools, just like in Luxembourg, that pay very high salaries and pay well, although there's a cost to that. So if you have kids that are going to these international schools, the cost to enroll them is significantly more than some other places in Europe. So I think being a teacher in Luxembourg as well could have its benefits, salary-wise for sure.
Definitely. And then we also talked to a lot of people that were either locals or expats that lived there. And one thing that seemed to be quite common is either living across the border in a different country, or you would go there for something. Like if you needed groceries or maybe gas or something was a little cheaper, you kind of learn those little tricks of where to go across the border. But one thing just to be aware of is if you are coming to work in Luxembourg and you have that visa, does that translate if you want to live across the border in one of the neighboring countries? So just keeping visas in mind. But it seems like there's little hacks to it as well, because a lot of people did say it is expensive here, but there's ways to make it work, and you just have to learn those once you live there.
I found the language component of it to be quite confusing. It was
so many?
Yeah, because it's like not everywhere we went were people fluent at English.
Right.
Right?
Which is kind of a surprise, I think.
I think very much so. I think most of the greetings happened in French. Like that was the first thing that we heard from most people. I don't know why. Like I don't know if we give off like those French vibes. I don't think
or
we
if
do.
that's just the common language to start with, would be French.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, like I think most people from Luxembourg wouldn't default to Luxembourgish. Right? And not that language is dying, because I think that with their education system, they've kept it very much like alive, and that's cool. But it didn't seem like we were ever really getting greeted or talked to in Luxembourgish.
Right.
it was always like
French was the starter.
French at the start, sometimes English as well.
Right.
Just depended.
Right. Yeah, the language is a really interesting thing with how it's such a mix, and you kind of don't know what language people speak or how many.
And that's what I mean.
As well, you know? Like,
Yes.
it seems like people speak a lot of different languages there.
Yeah.
So that's really cool. Let's go back onto the food because you talked a little bit about that. I did see, like, there were a lot of cuisine options around, but it was hard to find, like, what is Luxembourgish food? It was hard to find restaurants that were specifically like that. Like, when we would look stuff up or we look at a menu, you'd be like, okay, here's a French restaurant, or even like a Portuguese restaurant or international or something. But like, it was a little harder to find maybe some hole-in-the-wall Luxembourgish type food places.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think when you're traveling as well, like we were, you try to be conscious of your caloric intake and like how heavy the meals are. And because we know that Luxembourgish food can be heavier, and then also there's the economic impact of it being pricier, we really only had one proper Luxembourgish meal this time. Whereas the first time we went, we had it a couple of times.
A little more. Right. So, but I guess, you know, when you live there, maybe you're cooking it at home, or if you meet someone who is Luxembourgish, they can teach you how to cook something. So there obviously is quite a difference from traveling and visiting a place compared to living there.
Yeah, absolutely. So the food variety is phenomenal. That was one of the things that we really enjoyed just as visitors there. We had a ton of options from Asian to European to North American, Latin American. So it was phenomenal.
Lots of options. Now, when we're talking about Luxembourg City, just the city itself, it was interesting, like, it's not like it's hilly, but there are like big, like
elevation
the lower,
changes.
the lower and higher part, like we mentioned, very big differences.
Yep.
And so you don't want to really get caught walking up or down those. But the good thing is those buses are free, so wait for a bus. But a cool feature that they have is the elevators. So you can be on a higher part or lower part, and you find these like public elevators that will take you to the different parts. And the different parts have different, like a different feel, vibe, I like to say, depending on where you are. So choose where you want to live depending on those amenities that are around and just kind of the feel of that part of the city.
Yeah, and just to let you know, on this channel, we like to do these city or country guides where we talk about different places around the world. Since we live in Europe, we've been focusing more in on Europe recently. And the way we structure it is we give you a lot of like data up front or statistical or factual things up front, and then we move into the part where we just kind of give our opinions and our feelings towards the place that we're visiting that day, we're exploring. And then we move into a part where we ask if we would expat that. So I want to ask Kalie, would you expat that? Would you expat Luxembourg? Would you want to live here for, I don't know, a couple years, 5 years, like something more midterm, not for the rest of your life?
I would say yes, I would expat Luxembourg. I really liked it. I mean, one thing that could be tricky is it does get cold, and I don't love the cold, but I think I could do it for a couple years because I think that the city itself is so beautiful, and I would be really interested in exploring the country. It wouldn't take that long, but there might be some other cool places to live outside of the city, of course, but then you're in a great position to also travel around to the different countries around you. So I would say yes. I mean, salaries would be something to consider to make sure that the budget works, but yes, I would expat Luxembourg. And you?
I'm going to have to say yes. I think the salary component's huge. I don't believe that we could continue kind of running the media company where we're at now, at least the level we're at now. But I do think that like going back into education could be an amazing opportunity. Luxembourg to me is similar to a place like Andorra in that it's like bordered by a bunch of other countries, the size.
Oh, yeah. Climate, kind of?
Man, maybe the climate's similar-ish. I think there are some comparisons to be drawn between the two.
Yeah.
I think I do like the diversity of Luxembourg a bit more than Andorra. The language things is all kind of crazy. But I think the job opportunities in a place like Luxembourg feel much greater. One of the things that I don't think that we touched on that much was safety. I know that we've talked to people that live there in the past that have talked about they feel like there's like a rising concern on the street. We didn't feel that, and we haven't felt that either visit. So we don't know if like it's their perception because everything's like super safe, and then one or two incidences start to happen, and then that makes you feel a little less safe. But it's like coming from a place like where we are in the States, it feels okay.
Yeah, it feels
safe.
Yeah. I think safe, but still being aware of your surroundings is important. I think I say that for everywhere, though.
Yeah.
No matter what. Well, I would say this, don't take our word for it. If you want to see if Luxembourg is like Andorra, then check out this video right here. Now, let's get moving.
Bye.